Chaotix Casefiles was so good, I think it just inadvertently put a whole lot of pressure on the next Sonic game. Channel Dog here. So, after delivering strong performances across a range of transmedia, including movies, comics, and visual novels, Sonic is officially jumping into audio dramas in the form of Sonic Presents The Chaotix Casefiles. Following the murder of Sonic the Hedgehog, which followed Amy and Tails instead of Sonic, the Chaotix Casefiles follows the Chaotix in an ongoing adventure narrated by Vector the Crocodile, this time to solve the disappearance of the astroscopic lenses from the Station Square Museum. With this, we get an exploration of the Sonic world from the perspective of the Chaotix as they interact with different fan-favorite characters in different locations from the games. Now, Sonic games have had issues with world building and familiarity in the recent years, as we've revisited Green Hill, Chemical Plant, and Sky Sanctuary ad nauseum at this point. A key difference, though, is that the Chaotix Casefiles has the world building to actually make these locations worth revisiting. Angel Island, Spagonia, Station Square are all homes to different Sonic characters that feel fully contextualized here. It's obviously worth noting that recurring locations are going to be much more welcome in different mediums from the games, as it does mean the experience is different and therefore not so redundant. But with the locations as fleshed out as this, and following different characters rather than just Sonic through them, it definitely makes them feel more like a part of the world rather than just lazy asset reuse. In a narrative format like this can work. Characters the Chaotix meet along the way include some legacy players like Knuckles and Rouge, but also some unexpected characters playing major roles such as Professor Tori from Tails Tube, Vanilla and Gemerl, and Tangle and Whisper from the IDW comics, in their very first voiced appearance. And again, it goes a very long way to making this world feel just that bit more developed, which it has sorely needed. The Chaotix Casefiles may be one of the first projects in a while to properly acknowledge humans as a part of Sonic's world and have them play a meaningful role outside of the Robotnik lineage or a Generations time travel project. And I've always preferred it this way. I can appreciate the aesthetic of the Anthro worlds of Sonic Forces and Sonic Racing Crossworlds, but that's just not what Sonic was intended to be, even dating back to the classic era. Getting rid of the humans felt like a form of narrative gaslighting and completely changed the dynamics of Sonic's world, so I'm thrilled to see them properly reincorporated here and hope that the game will follow up on this. Across the board, characterization is strong too. I've had my concerns about post-Frontier Sonic being kinda just endlessly approachable and charismatic when the Sonic I enjoy the most tends to be a little more petty and awkward. While relegated to side character, this is much more in line with that Sonic.
What's the matter, Sonic? Don't tell me the detective has better manners than you do.
Oh, yeah, forgive me if I don't muster up much enthusiasm.
He's still quippy and friendly, but he can be sassy too. I've also had my concerns with Eggman, referring to him as more of a mumblecore version of the character.
The amount of data stored here defies quantification.
For crying out loud, somebody throw a pie!
With Eggman, it's that pairing of comedy and genuine intellect that makes him a scene stealer, but post-Frontiers, Eggman has been a lot more subdued in favor of exploring him more as a scientist. Fortunately, towards the end of the story, we see a bit more of that old-school Eggman, and his dynamic with Sage continues to make this character much more interesting as an antagonistic presence. Sage as a permanent fixture of the Eggman Empire is very welcome. Ryan Bartley is great as ever. I really do like the synthetic voice that they've given her.
Don't worry, Father. I'll find you.
And we do get to know a bit more about her role in Eggman's operations. Knuckles gets a smaller role this time, simply being questioned by the Chaotix on Angel Island. It's nice to see him in a no-pressure situation, just hanging out at his home. That said, I am hoping we'll see some delivery on the idea that Knuckles will go out and forge a life of his own beyond the Master Emerald. Same goes for Tails, who again gets a smaller role in just the last 2 episodes to help out, and he's a welcome presence. He's consistently pretty well characterized these days, which is great to see, and there are little nods to Tails' newfound independence as well.
I got a call for help from Tails, or at least I thought it was Tails. He's getting pretty good at taking care of himself, so it had to be serious if he was calling me.
I wouldn't consider it a payoff from his arc in Sonic Frontiers, but it's, I guess, better than nothing. Amy Rose is surprisingly completely absent this time. Maybe Cindy Robinson just wasn't available, so while Sonic appears in every episode as part of the narrative framing device, his closest friends are relegated to bit parts, that is, if they're present at all. And that's fine, let other characters take the spotlight. Rouge the Bat makes a comeback, and it's nice to see her get an actual substantial role this time, where she's independent and more than just a flirt. There's no Team Dark to be found here. She's aiding the investigation with the hopes of getting her own hands on the astroscopic lenses, while we also see a little bit more of her compassionate side, so she gets some good character development. With Professor Tori, we continue down the path of her being a professor at Spagonia University. However, she also has connections with Gun, and it's nice to see Commander Abraham Tower seemingly making a return to the franchise beyond Shadow. This kind of idea would have been a pipe dream back in 2017. Tangle and Whisper's inclusion feels like the righting of a wrong from the Archie years. Even if just for one game, it would have been nice to have seen Sally and the Freedom Fighters make an appearance. And to be honest, I'd still want that for the fans of those characters. It doesn't have to be in any major capacity, just playable versions in Crossworld or Rumble or something like that. Still waiting for Styx to return.
I wonder if Cream and Styx are free.
Don't sell me on things I can't have, guys. Hashtag dicks out for Styx. But having Tangle and Whisper show up here, and in 2 titles, is a big deal that represents a huge shift in mentality towards non-game media for the Sonic franchise. Personally, I've never been that attached to either of them. I'm no Dave Ace when it comes to Tangle gooning. Never disliked them though, but they were just never my favorites. Actually hearing their voices, though, has really only furthered my appreciation for both of these characters. You get more of a sense of their delivery now. More on performances later, though. These two are on top form. It was great to finally hear a voice from Gemel, and there was even a little shipping bait between Vanilla and Vector.
Vanilla wasn't a fighter, but she was a good, smart, strong, kind woman. And, if I may be so bold, more than a little good-looking, too.
And of course, we gotta talk about the men of the hour, the Chaotix, who, to be honest, have been unsung heroes in the Sonic universe for some time now. They've been consistently pretty well characterized, but it often feels like Sega have no idea what to do with them. I think they were kinda at their best in Sonic X, and they've always had a lovable dynamic. Vector feels kind of like the reliable dad who'd give their kid's friend a ride to the airport, no questions asked. Espio is literally me. He's got skills, but he doesn't get a lot of success out of it and fumbles the bag with the ladies.
How about you and I get together for a little stealthy adventuring later? Just the 2 of us?
What? And abandon my team in the middle of a case?
He is indeed a fraud boy failure just like me. And Charmy's there. Charmy's real benefit is the dynamic he has with the other 2, but I still don't really think we've quite landed on a great version of Charmy yet. That said, it's great to finally have the Chaotix take the spotlight in a story and format that really suits them. It's about damn time. As for the writing and the mystery, it's all solid. There's a genuine curious mystery the audience can follow along with perfectly sensible clues that don't needlessly withhold information from the audience purely for the sake of a dramatic reveal. These images were an editing choice on my part, and it all results in a satisfying climax. Don't laugh. That's how a mystery should be. Done right, the mystery genre is a super rewarding space to follow along with, and this marks the 2nd time a piece of high-profile Sonic transmedia has nailed this, and it's great to see this franchise excel in new formats and genres. And then, of course, there's the big reveal. The main villain is Infinite, from Sonic Forces. Now that is incredible. In effect, we have a story where the Chaotix team up with Sonic and Tangle and Whisper to take down Infinite, and you've got Robotnik and Sage in there too. Like, this is A story like this coming from the Sonic franchise would have been a hallucination 10 years ago. We've come such a long way. Infinite's return is very welcome as far as I'm concerned, and I cannot begin to tell you the enthusiasm I felt when I first heard the Phantom Ruby name dropped in Chaotix Casefiles Episode 6.
No, Charmy, Red Spectre, Phantom. Don't you get it? Phantom is another word for Spectre. And what's red?
See, Infinite was kind of a lame villain in Sonic Forces. That's because Sonic Forces was a lame game with a lame story, and Infinite was incredibly weakly written.
I am not weak!
And I guess you could ask, why is Infinite welcome back, but not Zavok? Why is it, Channel Dog, that you'll welcome Infinite back with open arms, but insist Zavok needs to go regardless of writing improvements? And, well, I have an answer for you. A lot of Sonic character appeals can really fall back on their designs. Sonic would not have survived some of the lower points in his franchise were it not for what a spectacular design he has. Infinite has a strong design with his asymmetrical mask and striking silhouette, but he also has a strong concept as a power-hungry illusionist with identity issues. At the same time, he felt like kind of a consolation prize for fans of Mephiles from Sonic 06, but I've always been eager to see his character get some form of expansion because his design and voice are just particularly menacing. Zavok, on the other hand, serves one purpose: Sonic Bowser. Sonic doesn't need a Bowser. He never did. He's fought beasts before that are far more intimidating than fucking Bowser. Zavok is in a completely different art style and is just fundamentally a redundancy in the Sonic universe. That said, Justin M's Phantom Ruby redesign of Zavok actually fixes all of the issues to where I'd be game to learn a little more about him. But in his current form, I'm not budging. Fuck Zavok and fuck what Zavok represents. As for Infinite, he's had some character maintenance in his 9 years off. Everything that gave Infinite potential is still present and accounted for, but he's got some new layers now. In the base game of Sonic Forces, Infinite amounted to nothing more than a grumbling lackey for Dr. Eggman, and his edgy theme song suggested that he was way cooler than he actually ended up being. Then Episode Shadow demolished his credibility with his little meltdown. The Chaotix Casefiles takes those flaws and makes them features.
He sure is talking an awful lot, SPO.
That he is. And I'm getting more and more nervous with every word.
Infinite turns against Dr. Eggman in this game with the sole desire of tormenting the world with an endless nightmare before finally putting it out of its misery. And he's using the astroscopic lenses to regain the power he lost from the Phantom Ruby. As for his insistence on his own power, they played up his insecurity as a factor in his character.
The case of the gesticulating jackal.
He's not as self-assured as other Sonic characters. He needs people to know that he matters, and he wants nothing more than to be feared. So, we've got an insecure, emotionally unstable illusionist with a lust for power. They really turned Infinite into my favorite Spider-Man villain. Close enough, welcome back, Mysterio. Sonic has needed a better rogues gallery for a while now, outside of the IDW comics, and I cannot stress enough just what this version of Infinite brings to that landscape.
I must say, I'm a tiny bit impressed. Impressed that this much of my time has been wasted by a gaggle of loathsome little parasites. Goodbye.
With that said, there was one thing I was kind of hoping for that unfortunately wasn't delivered upon, and that's okay, it's not an objective failing by any means, but, personally, I wish Episode 8 didn't exist. Don't get me wrong, it's a good finale, but for a couple of weeks, I was genuinely pondering the possibility of the next mainline Sonic game following up on Episode 7's cliffhanger. Obviously, Episode 7 made it clear there was another episode, but man, imagine if the next mainline Sonic game picked up where Episode 7 left off, with Infinite back at the height of his power, and we had a cast of Sonic, Tails, the Chaotix, Tangle and Whisper, and Eggman and Sage up against Infinite. I have never been more excited for a completely hypothetical Sonic game than I was here, and this would have been an absolutely insane marketing move. And I think that's my number one concern. I don't just want cool concepts like this to be relegated to transmedia. I'm hoping that the games will tap into this. Sega, make Infinite the main villain of another Sonic game in the future, please. You can right the wrongs that were Sonic Forces. That said, Episode 8 is by no means a sneeze. It's a pretty solid finale. At this point, it's basically an extended action sequence, which is ambitious to tackle in an audio-only format, and I won't lie, there are some definite growing pains with how this is handled as an audio drama. The first 6 episodes generally do a good job with conveying everything through audio. Vector has his own monologue, and you've got the framing device of Eggman interrogating Sonic and Vector, with Vector kind of recounting the events.
You can find a million stories in the Naked City.
But when it comes to the final 2 episodes, we're back in the present day, so Vector's monologuing doesn't feel as justified, but then we've got some other little issues here and there. I chatted with my buddy Dominus TV, who has worked professionally on audio dramas for a good few years now, and he expressed that the exposition could at times break the immersion, which I definitely agreed with. He mentions that even in audio, it's still important for the dialogue to sound like something a character would say in a visual medium. Regardless of the medium, there is always more they can do than just talk. A key point of contention that he pointed out was redundant exposition, where characters would over-clarify what's going on. For example, how do we establish that Infinite punched Eggman?
Infinite powered up and took out Eggman!
Alright, that is one line of dialogue describing what happened.
Whoa! What a punch!
That is the best line of dialogue describing what happened.
Eggman actually made it over the horizon!
Alright, I get it!
And I completely agree with Dominus. They really only needed one of those lines. This happens quite a bit, especially in those last 2 episodes, but we did agree that the reason for this is probably because ultimately Sonic still needs to be approachable for the kid demographic, and a little clarification here and there could just help the kid audience along. Yes, kids do deserve quality, but maybe the week-to-week audio drama model targeted towards kids could use just a few additional bits of dialogue just to ensure everything's clear. I'm guessing that was probably the mindset. We both agreed, though, it's still a very good first venture into audio dramas. As for the ending, it's pretty satisfying. Some mysteries are left open-ended, like who was Infinite's benefactor? I reckon it could be Enigma the Jackal from the Chaotix comic. I know Daniel Barnes has said that wasn't the case, but I mean, Andrew Garfield said he wasn't going to be in Spider-Man No Way Home. I don't trust anyone. Infinite does survive the battle and disappears off. However, I did find it kind of funny how Sonic and the gang kind of just decided it was over when Infinite vanished.
Did we just win?
The battle's over, and Infinite's not bugging us anymore. Sounds like a win to me!
And in another instance of kind of unnecessary exposition is the characters acknowledging their arcs at the end of the story, just in case you didn't notice that. And then after they're done patting each other on the backs, the song basically spells out what their arcs were anyway. You could have just left it to the music in this case. The production quality of this project is really strong. Sound effects communicate action well, the soundtrack by Rebecca Sugar is fantastic, factor in motifs from the games, and even using some old school Mega Drive synths to accentuate the big band style. This is more the kind of thing I was hoping for from the Sonic movie soundtracks. We definitely saw improvements in the third one, but Rebecca Sugar's soundtrack feels a lot more confident with its source material. Voice performances across the board are really strong too, with some notable standouts. I'm going to refrain from commenting on certain actors outside of just their performances, though. Like Pollock and Strassman, you get the point. As people, they stink, and I don't like them. Sonic, Tails, and Eggman all sound about right. Roger Craig Smith is back to his more energetic performance as Sonic, which is perfectly welcome. Eggman stopped mumbling like he did in Sonic Frontiers, so that's nice. And you still couldn't ask for a better Tails than Colleen O'Shaughnessy. Same goes for Keith Silverstein as Vector and Matthew Mercer as Espio. They are as perfect in these roles as I could ever want. I'd actually love to hear Matthew Mercer's take on Shadow someday. These two have been consistently good across all their appearances. I will admit, though, that out of the 3 Chaotix members, Colleen O'Shaughnessy as Charmy is definitely the weak link here.
Well, Espio, you did let Rouge steal one of your kunai earlier.
A perfect Tails doesn't necessarily make a perfect Charmy, as we see here. So, they've toned Charmy's voice down, which I guess makes sense, as you wouldn't want it full tilt Charmy as a main character in an audio drama. But now he sounds like Bart Simpson's Mickey Mouse impression.
I am the mascot of an evil corporation!
I don't think we've ever really gotten Charmy's voice down in English. I'd definitely appreciate something to Yoko Tepakuza's voice performance. I've only ever really heard her in Sonic X, but I found her to be by far the most likable version of the character. David Mitchell's performance as Knuckles was a little bizarre this time, I'm gonna be honest.
What are you guys doing here? Well, the sound of approaching chopper blades was a subtle hint.
I can't shake the vibe that he sounds like someone's gym teacher. I do like David Mitchell as Knuckles in Frontiers, Crossworld's Dream Team, etc., but while this performance sounded natural, he doesn't really sound like Knuckles to me. I'm going to be honest, Idris Elba in the role was such a game changer that I'd really just like him to sound more like that. I mean, in addition, the character is black-coded. He's got dreadlocks and a Rastafarian flag on his shoes. Giving him a black actor just feels like a no-brainer to me. I will also say Karen Strassman as Rouge is sounding a little old.
Aside from getting you out of harm's way, does my voice sound unusual to you?
It's good that they're letting her talk in a lower register for the most part. I prefer a huskier Rouge to Valley Girl Rouge, and this is the most consistent performance that I think Karen Strassman has had in a long time. That said, you can hear the aging here. Rouge isn't an old woman. Crystal Lee, who voices Professor Tori, could easily nail Rouge. Jeannie Tirado, who voiced REM in Sonic Dream Team, could also do a great Rouge voice. As it stands now, Rouge just doesn't quite sound right. She's not keeping up with the newcomers Ashlyn Madden and Annalise Quinones as Tangle and Whisper, especially when Strassman's voice just completely cracks in half every time she has to talk in a slightly higher register. But, want to draw attention to the newcomers now. Ashlyn Madden as Tangle and Annalise Quinones as Whisper are absolutely pitch perfect.
Especially when something's going down here in our own backyard. Isn't that right, Whisper?
Sure.
They sound exactly how I imagine them sounding when reading the comics. Kind of like what Kevin Conroy is to Batman, these two are to Tangle and Whisper. What a get! Perfect. I hope we'll hear more of them. For the first time since Sonic X, Vanilla the Rabbit gets a voice. The voice of Jenny Yokobori, and again, she sounds just as I imagined her. They've clearly done a great job with these new actors. And then we've got Alejandro Saab, kind of a scene stealer. He gets a couple of roles here. He gets a small role as Gemerl, who I honestly mistook for Espio at first. That said, nice to see the robot gets a smooth-spoken voice, but Alejandro Saab also replaces Liam O'Brien as Infinite. Liam O'Brien expressed that he wasn't interested in returning to the Sonic franchise after voicing Zaz in Infinite, and I mean, based on the scripts for Forces and Lost World, can you really blame him? Alejandro Saab made it clear on social media that he wanted to honor Liam O'Brien's performance, and you can hear clear as day the respect for the integrity of the character coming from Saab. While he benefits from stronger material than Liam O'Brien had to work with, Alejandro Saab is every bit as menacing as Infinite.
See you when you least expect it, Sonic.
While he sounds like the same character, he does bring his own little nuances to the role as well, making Infinite sound almost just a tad playful, like he's genuinely savoring the terror, and I love it. So overall, it's a super strong production. It does have little flaws here and there, but I mean, hey, still beats Netflix writing when it comes to exposition. I think there are issues with exposition across the board when it comes to Sonic that I'm hoping Sega can find a bit more of a middle ground on. Something that's clear for the kiddos, but not an immersion breaker. On a whole, though, for fans of the Sonic universe and storytelling that it's home to, Chaotix Casefiles is a feast that will hopefully lead to bigger things to come. After all, there is still the mystery of Infinite's benefactor. The video's over. Go. Now, where would I be without the generosity of my trusty patrons? We're going to start with a shout out for the patrons in the $10 and above tiers. We have Just Another Evil Robot Clone Seeking Revenge, Xander Wolf, Ghostly Phantom, Twilord, KB, Sad Goku, Dare Denny, Kale Bennett, if I had more space I'd explain that, It's taken me way too long to update this. And Mr. SP, Sirius the Skeptic, and Biotin. And now, on to the patrons in the $5 and above tier. We've got Joseph Tribble, Press Play the Jason, Gideon Wells, Basic Content, Ben Raven, Reese Burns, Manalza, Goat Cannon, Silver, Josh Strider, Grant Allen, Marv Animation, Cho Henshin, RT0, Carlex, SSS06, and Vera Wild. Thank you, good folks, so much for your generosity. The video's now over. Get out.